Welcome back to another episode of Trash Talk. I'm John Bernard. This is Nick. We are the K-Roos Bros, giving you the fight news around the world. It's great to be in Sydney for fight. We're about to hit the road soon with International Fight Week coming up, but we had a great pay-per-view last week. Merab absolutely demolishes Suga Sean O'Malley.
That's an understatement.
Yeah.
Because he got the finish. Suga Sean did talk a bit of smack, maybe not as much as we're used to, but he did say at the press conference that he was going to knock Merab out, and Merab said, look, I'm going to humble you. And he definitely did humble Suga Sean because any aura that Suga Sean had going into this fight, completely gone.
I was disappointed because I feel like a lot of people were taking Suga Sean as an underdog. He learned from the first fight, and Merab literally manhandled him like he was a child. It was carrying him around the octagon. He was out-striking Sean O'Malley. He didn't just lean on the wrestling and control time. It was just an absolute clinic for Merab. And that brings us to the hot take. Merab is the bantamweight GOAT.
1,000%. At this point, he's run through basically everyone in the top 10. Mm-hmm. I think he's beaten 3 or 4 former champions. What more does he need to do to his resume for people to actually even question this? I don't understand anymore because you beat Sean O'Malley, who beat Aljamain Sterling, who people did consider the bantamweight GOAT. Now he's beaten Umar as well, who was considered an Nurmagomedov, an undefeated fighter, someone that couldn't be beaten. He looks unstoppable, and the way he's doing it now, he never looks like losing.
Yeah, I don't know what matchup you make for him next. He's ran through everyone in the division. He said he's interested in potentially going up to featherweight or an Alexandre Pantoja matchup, but there's no one in his division that is probably on his level. You got his teammate in Aljamain Sterling, and you have whoever's in the top 5. But guess what? He's already beaten them. And you've got Peter Yan calling for a rematch. You've got Corey Sandhagen that's been putting his hand up. I just don't know where he goes from here. But ultimately, he is the GOAT of the division, and it's done. Once you treat Suga Sean like that, there's no argument.
And if you go through the former fighters that have talked about Merab, Sean O'Malley, post-fight, said he's the bantamweight GOAT. Henry Cejudo, he said he's the bantamweight GOAT.
Was about to give him the pound-for-pound GOAT.
Aljamain Sterling, another former bantamweight champion, said Merab's the bantamweight GOAT. So these guys are all acknowledging that he is the greatest of all time.
Did you see what Sean O'Malley said on a podcast
what did
after
he say?
the match? He just said Merab felt stronger in their rematch, and he says he was the most nervous he's ever been before a fight, but Merab felt different. He felt stronger, and then he called him the bantamweight GOAT. He said he's unstoppable.
That's a lot to suck up for Suga Sean. That's a hard pill to swallow. For him to say that after the fight.
The thing that's going to hurt him the most, this is what he said to Tim Welch, is that he's going to have to be on a co-main event. He's not going on last again. Now his next fight will have to be the second person on the show.
That's really the toughest part of it?
Well, obviously the loss as well.
Oh, wow.
The bit, taking the loss and not getting the championship.
He must be that high on himself. But hey, he says he's not really that sad about it either. He said, look, I've copped it and I'm moving on to the next. But that takes us to now the UFC 316 fighter pay, starting with Joe Pfeiffer, $101,000.
Not bad for Joe. Needed it. Kevin Holland, the workhorse, wants another 3 fights this year, earned $471,000.
I'm saying, but these guys, Joe was, I think, the 3rd last fight of the night.
Yeah.
You think he'd be getting a bit more than 100K. That's a bit harsh.
But listen, he's not like a name that casual fans know, I would say.
Well, then usually they're on the
prelims. And, he came out pretty strongly and said he hasn't been fraud checked and he's one of the better fighters in the division. So I think 100K is good for the clinic that he put on.
But Kevin Holland, $471,000. Yeah. That's amazing. For someone that plans on fighting 5 times a year,
good money.
You times that by 5, we're getting close to $2.5 million.
And he earned it. He got the finish. Respect to him.
Talk about a prize fighter. Someone that just loves fighting and loves getting paid for it. Take her now to the co-main event.
Yeah.
Kayla Harrison, $882,000.
The new champ. I mean, she earned every cent of it because I don't know how she makes that weight. There's a picture that came out of her in the sauna. She looked like death.
She looked like a skeleton.
And so she earned every cent of that. And I'm sure she's going to make even more now against Amanda Nunes.
But people that complain that sometimes women don't get paid.
Yeah.
$882,000 as the challenger in the co-main event. They're doing pretty well.
UFC's becoming the tennis. They're giving the females just as much as the male counterparts in the main event and co-main event.
And Juliana Pena, $1.3 million.
Champ money.
That's amazing.
Yeah, she didn't fight like she deserved it though.
Not 1.3 million. Let's be honest, guys. Like she's no Weili Zhang, she's no Shevchenko. To get paid this amount of money, you'd think she'd have like 5-6 title defenses.
She got dominated.
She got dominated.
Yeah.
So it doesn't make sense to me.
Suga Sean O'Malley, $1.9 million. Everyone's saying Dana looked after him, handed him the rematch. He looked like he quit everything, all his vices outside the octagon. 1.9 million's great.
He said he wasn't sad after the fight. I wouldn't be sad either if I got paid 1.9 million.
100%. 1.9 million is well earned. He was one of the faces of the UFC. He liked to call himself one of the faces, and that's one of the faces' money.
And Merab got paid $2.3 million. That's champion money.
And he said he's going to give some of his purse to Aljamain Sterling because he helped him prepare. You know, he was the best man at his wedding. I think it was a wedding gift that he wants to give to Aljo for helping him prepare for Sugar Sean. And he says he's one of the better guys in the division as well. But $2.3 million at bantamweight, I think he deserves it. And for the status he is right now, 2.3 is what Merab deserves.
And you know, Merab fought in January. He just fought this month. He said he wants to fight, I think, 2 more times this year. If you're getting paid $2.3 million, I'll be wanting to fight every month because he's not copping much damage and he's just running through guys. So it's very doable.
People are saying it might be a bit disrespectful. Sean O'Malley, if he had won, would have earned somewhere around maybe $4 million.
So I mean,
his contract is better than the current champ. So again, I feel like after that performance, Merab deserves either another 3-fight deal where he's on that Sugar Sean money, because if you look at him, he kind of is the face. Him and Ilya are the face of Georgia and that kind of region of wrestlers. And he's putting it on around. He's one of the most entertaining fighters in the UFC.
Not as a slight against Merab, but Sugar Sean has the bigger following, whether it's on social media or actually probably leading to more pay-per-view buys. And I feel like there's more Americans that would probably want to watch Sugar Sean than Merab. At least their fighting style.
The crowd in Newark, New Jersey were definitely behind Sugar Sean. Chanting USA. I know Donald Trump was in attendance, but they were booing when Merab would get in wrestling exchanges. Really? Oh, they were getting behind Sugar Sean. Yeah, he thanked everyone for coming out.
Salty fans.
Just couldn't get it done. But that brings us to the next matchups to make. What is next for Sugar Sean?
He definitely cannot face someone like an Umar Nurmagomedov because he's already lost.
It's another bad style.
You don't want the bad matchup, okay? Yeah. And then there is maybe some sense for him to verse Peter Yan, but I don't think Peter Yan wants to verse him anymore because it doesn't really get him back to the title.
Yeah, but it would right that wrong of the match that everyone calls a robbery, and I think personally Peter Yan won, but that would maybe get him one step closer to a title rematch.
For me personally, though, I think Henry Cejudo is the best matchup for Sugar Sean. One, because there's bad words that's been exchanged between them before.
They got that office style where Cejudo said he wanted him when he was getting the interview done.
So, and Henry Cejudo does need sort of a retirement fight, and against Sugar Sean, who's a big enough name to kind of fit that bill, it makes sense. And Sugar Sean, even if he beats whoever his next opponent is, he's not going to get a title shot from it. So let him have a tune-up fight, one that's more than likely that he will win, which I do think is Henry Cejudo. I think he'd piece him up. So let that happen.
And he looked like he was straight back into the gym right after the fight, literally a couple days after Sugar Sean's back in the gym. So good on him. He's not giving up on his career. He's not going straight into boxing. Although I think he'll probably be in a TKO boxing league.
Definitely.
Sure.
I mean, and if you're looking for a pure striking battle, Song Yadong versus Sean O'Malley does kind of make sense as well.
Yeah, and I think Sean wins there. But for Merab, what would you rather see? Merab versus Corey Sandhagen or Merab versus Pantoja? Pantoja coming up.
The thing is, I don't think Pantoja stands a chance going up because he's already so much smaller. And if his specialty is kind of wrestling and jiu-jitsu, Merab will overpower him. So it just doesn't make sense for him to do it.
I think it would end up them being on the feet, to be honest with you.
And like, you got to think, the UFC now, to go up a division, you have to vacate your belt. Does Pantoja really want to vacate his belt? I don't think he really wants to. And Sandhagen's really like the only guy Merab hasn't beat. So that's why it makes sense for him to
Has Sandhagen done enough to earn a title shot? He just walked through Davinson Figueiredo. And that looked pretty easy for him. So I don't know. Does he just go straight to a title shot? Do they run an Umar rematch?
Well,
Umar's been back to full training. He's looking good. He's got full use of his hands. I don't know. I don't know if I want to see an Umar versus Merab rematch. To be honest
not till Umar earns it properly, though. Yeah. He's got to beat a Peter Yan. He's got to beat another top contender, which would have been Sandhagen. But I think did he already beat Sandhagen?
Umar, I think he did. Yeah, he did.
So it's like it kind of makes sense for Sandhagen to be next, just by like process of elimination.
Well, talking about people at a division where a belt is vacated, Justin Gaethje. It's come out that he's ready to retire if he doesn't receive the next title shot in the lightweight division.
I just want to say, Justin Gaethje didn't say this. His manager Abdul Aziz did put this out. So I don't want to put words in Justin's mouth. Justin Gaethje's manager said he will retire if he doesn't get a title shot.
He's known for tweeting for people, but he did say this on behalf of Justin Gaethje. I don't know if that's the right move from Justin Gaethje because I don't know if he deserves it over other highly ranked fighters like Arman Sarukian, like I mean, he probably deserves it over Charles, to be honest with you.
I mean, I feel like Charles deserves it more because, one, he is the former champion.
Yeah.
He had a cancelled bout against Islam, and the only fight he lost was against Arman, which was very, very close. So, Justin Gaethje, the fight that you lost, you were unconscious. You got embarrassed by a fight at featherweight.
He needs a title shot because he's not getting any younger. He's pushing high 30s. He's in his probably just over his prime right now.
Yeah, but it's like, why do you deserve a title shot? Arman Tsarukyan's beat Charles Oliveira. Charles Oliveira's beat Michael Chandler. He's ran through basically the whole top 5, top 6. Justin Gaethje, you beat Fiziev.
Yeah.
You don't really deserve a title shot. And to demand a title shot or you're going to retire, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, but with the UFC pissed off at Arman Tsarukyan for pulling out with a little back spasm while training with Nina Drama, maybe he does get the title shot. And Arman Tsarukyan went straight to Twitter and congratulated Justin Gaethje on his retirement. He said, congratulations on an amazing career. Enjoy your retirement. Pretty much saying, you're not getting the next title shot, son.
Yeah, and it sounds like these guys probably should fight each other. If there's
Yeah.
if you want a title eliminator, fight. Because Arman Tsarukyan definitely needs a tune-up fight or a fight just to get back in the title picture. Dana and the UFC have made that known to him. And Justin Gaethje, if you want a title shot, beat the top contender. If you can't beat the top contender, you're not going to beat the champion. So why do you care?
That's a fair point. I don't know what Justin Gaethje does next. I know he'll be in attendance.
He's not retiring.
He'll be there at International Fight Week. I don't know if they'll let him in the octagon, but he'll definitely be shown in the crowd watching Ilya versus Charles. And you know what? I don't want to. I call Ilya the legend killer because he's beaten Volk, Max. He's going to knock out Charles. And if you put Justin Gaethje on that resume, he's the legend killer of the UFC.
The thing is, though, if you're Justin Gaethje, you don't want Charles Oliveira to win because you've already had Charles versus Justin, and we know how that's going to end. So really, he's actually going to be going for Ilya.
Really?
Because that's the most likely chance that he gets a
I
title
don't think
shot.
that's a good matchup for him either. I think Ilya's a far better
Well,
boxer.
if Max Holloway couldn't
Justin's a great striker, and he landed well on Fiziev. He's landed well against Michael Chandler. He even exchanged really well with Max Holloway, but I just don't think he's a match for the best boxer in the UFC, which is Ilya.
Even in the fight that he beat Poirier, he was probably getting outstruck till he landed that head kick. So like,
So I'm saying if it's a striking battle, he loses to Ilya.
but I can see why Justin Gaethje's dirty because Poirier did get a title shot before him as well.
Because he knocked out Benoit Saint Denis.
You don't know where it's gonna end up, but I just don't think Gaethje at this point should be demanding a title shot or saying I'm going to retire. It just doesn't make sense.
Hey, Dana White took some time off being an influencer and actually answered some questions at a press conference, and he addressed Jon Jones. With Jon Jones talking a lot of shit on Twitter, pretty much saying he's retired, pretty much saying that he doesn't need to defend against Tom Aspinall. He said Jon Jones agreed to the fight. And from what he knew, the fight is going to happen and he will do everything he can to still make this fight happen. But he's not scared to move on and saying if he's talking crazy shit online, you know what, we'll move on.
Well, he said Jon Jones has agreed to fight Tom Aspinall, so it's going to happen. But I feel like he's said this at least 3 to 4 times now in the last 6 months. I don't know if it's going to happen. And then Ariel Helwani came out on his podcast or his show and said, yeah, Dana didn't tell you the full story. Jon Jones did agree to the fight. Then he got cold feet and pulled out, and now the fight's not happening.
He said the UFC gave into his demands. I think the number was 30 million. Then he said, yes. And then a little bit later, he said, no, I don't want to fight. Now they're scrambling, trying to make the fight happen. Some reporters were asking him about Francis Ngannou throwing his hat in the ring, and Dana said, nah, I don't want to do that.
Just close the door on Francis.
Close the door on Francis. But yeah, I don't know where this goes from here.
The thing for
John
me is
Anik
that-
is saying we may see it in December. Tom Aspinall is pretty adamant that Jon Jones is retired.
The thing is, though, Dana White says it's happening. Ariel Helwani says it's not happening.
Who do you believe?
Who do you believe? Ariel, a journalist, or Dana White, the chief operating officer, basically, of the UFC?
Yeah, I don't know. I would take Ariel's mail on this. He's usually pretty right, and Dana has the shits with him when he does get it right.
Well,
That's why he got banned from the UFC. Remember, he broke the news that Brock Lesnar was on UFC 200. They kicked him out. I think he's right in this instance. It makes sense that Jon Jones got his number, and then he went to Thailand and he said, you know what, I don't need a fight. I don't need to do it. And he's just creating more anticipation for the fight.
Who's more likely to lie?
Ariel Helwani.
There you go. So
Yeah,
that's why I
'cause
believe
he's a
Dana.
reporter.
And Dana would have more primary sources in the UFC, I would say, than Ariel Helwani. So if Dana says it's happening, I trust Dana. He's going to get it done.
It's an interesting fight. I actually don't. I think this is going to be like the next Conor McGregor fight, and it's going to be continuously talked about, and it's never actually going to happen. Tom Aspinall is going to move on. He's going to get through Cyril Gane, maybe try and fight Volkov. He says he wants to fight 2 more times this year, and they have to get a move on pretty soon.
I don't think he can fight twice this year. If he's holding out for a Jones fight, he can't. But was he going to fight Garn and Volkov? That can definitely maybe happen.
I think that could happen.
I don't think, but like the UFC knows Jon Jones is the money maker. That's the money fight. So they're going to be doing everything that they can. Does he go up to 40 mil? Does he want 40 mil? Like he knows like, oh, I got 30, maybe I can get 40.
Okay, go for an extra 35. You may as well. They said yes. Put another 5 mil for your legacy.
UFC, man, like Merab just got paid 2.3 million for his fight. You're basically doing 30 Merab fights.
It's because it will sell a lot of pay-per-views worldwide. It's one of the most anticipated heavyweight fights of all time in the UFC. I think it's worth doing. I don't know if he's going to gamble his legacy, though, doing it. I just want to remind, we are live on TikTok, live on Kick. This is going out to YouTube. If you're in the TikTok chat, go over to Kick. Follow us at JohnBernard_K. Leave your questions in there. We'll be reading them out at the end of the live. I want to get into Nick, JDM. He put out some comments on his Instagram story, pretty much backing the UFC and saying that he's happy with the current fighter pay. If you don't like the payment terms, do not sign the contract. The payment structure in the UFC right now incentivizes fighters to get the top of the division, and he's happy to be a company man, essentially.
Well, I think this was in retaliation to a documentary that was aired on ABC.
Yeah, that's right.
And they were maybe trying to paint the UFC in a bad light. And JDM said, look, I love working for the UFC.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to do that since I was 12 years old. And if you don't like the contract, don't sign it.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's having a go at people that do say the UFC doesn't pay their fighters. Because generally, we've done it after every pay-per-view. We go through the fighter pay. The top of the card do get rewarded. They do get paid very well. Obviously, I think even on the most recent card, UFC 316, the early prelims, the fighters are getting as low as 30,000. But you got to work your way up. You do have to have some incentive to get to the top.
Or some star power to your name. Look at the Sean Stricklands. Look at your Colby Covingtons. They've developed a name in the sport. They're entertainers. You want to either see them lose or they're at the top of the card for a reason. So if you're complaining about your spot on the card and your payment on the card, you need to start making some noise on social media or just accumulate as many wins and you get treated like a superstar on the top of the card. JDM, let's be honest, he's not the most entertaining fighter outside of the octagon. The guy can scrap, don't get me wrong, but I'm saying he doesn't like doing interviews.
Definitely.
He doesn't talk the talk, but he's earning top dollar because he's the champion right now. He's earned his way up there. So unless you're, getting to the top of the card, you try and create a personality, a persona to where you can start earning that big paycheck from the UFC.
And you can't complain either because I feel like that's just going to put the UFC offside with you. At least JDM doing everything right, backing the UFC, backing his ability, and just knowing, hey, if I'm putting out a blueprint of, okay, I'm not the most entertaining guy, I'm not the guy that's going to be the Conor McGregor and talk on the mic, but from winning fights, which I think he's 19 in a row now?
Yeah, look, I'll tell you what.
He's making it happen.
It doesn't help when you got Jake Paul earning $10-15 million per fight and he's a bum opponent earning the same amount.
He's the promotion. He's the promotion.
I know, he's a YouTuber, big star, whatever. But, he's always putting shit on Dana and complaining about the UFC fighter pay. I feel like some of the UFC fighters see the grass might be greener on the other side. When you look at the likes of Bellator and other promotions, the PFL, but ultimately they come to the UFC for less money.
Exactly.
And for bigger opportunities. So what's that telling you?
I do want to say, Patchy Mix coming over from Bellator.
That was a
I think the UFC's done with some Bellator fighters.
Look at Pitbull, dud in the UFC. I know he's come out outside of his prime. Patchy Mix, walking punching bag. Now, I know there's someone coming up on the next card, Aaron Pico, on the next two cards. He's facing Movsar Evelev. I think if you're a smart man, you're taking UFC guys over Bellator guys.
And look, I don't want to take a shoot on Patchy Mix. I've never watched the fight before, but I bought into the Bellator hype. Everyone was saying this guy's a 2-time bantamweight champion.
Look at his record.
Yeah. He's 20-1, and he's versing Batista, who everyone wants to lose. I'm like, you know what? The UFC set it up this way. It's going to happen. And then Patchy Mix after the fight,
he addressed it.
I took the fight on 3 weeks' notice. I wasn't really ready. It's like, come on, man.
You were talking a lot of shit beforehand. You were saying you're a class above. You're going to submit him. Look at his record. Look who he's faced. Look who I've faced. And he just looked like he had no answer for Mario Batista. So very rough start to his UFC career. I'm sure he'll be on a prelim pretty soon.
Jeez, that's probably true.
No, I think he's got to probably earn his second fight. And it can't be on a pay-per-view.
Okay, now let's move on to UFC Atlanta. It's this weekend. We got the returning Kamaru Usman, basically nearly after 2 years. We're getting close to 2 years without a Kamaru Usman fight, and he's up against Joaquin Buckley. What do you think? How's this going to go?
It's sad to say. I think being out of the octagon this long is going to hurt Kamaru Usman. I think Buckley is probably going to get a TKO finish. And he's talking like that's going to be the case. He's calling himself the next in line for a title shot. And if he knocks out Kamaru Usman, he's going to make a lot of noise to be in contention for a welterweight title shot. So I think he's got a lot more to fight for, and I'm taking Joaquin Buckley here.
Usually when people are out of the octagon for this long, it does make me want to pick their opponent to win the fight. But I've just seen Kamaru Usman be such a good fighter, such a high-level fighter.
Yeah.
Even in his last fight against Khamzat, he looked so good.
How about I put this here? Who do you think is the better striker right now, Leon Edwards or Joaquin Buckley? Right now.
Leon Edwards. I would take Leon Edwards. If they verse each other,
I don't think he's shown that at all in his last.
You got to remember, Joaquin Buckley.
I don't think he's shown that. Joaquin Buckley pieced up and split Colby Covington's eye. Did Leon Edwards do that to him? No, it went to decision, and it was a terrible fight. Let's be honest. It put everyone to sleep in Vegas.
Yeah, but
we were there.
That was Colby after a long layoff as well.
Exactly right. And what's he going to do to Kamaru Usman after a long layoff? I know he's different, but he didn't take Colby to those heights.
Yeah, but fighters like GSP, fighters like Jon Jones, legends, which Kamaru Usman is, they all took long layoffs, 2-3 years from the octagon, came back and won. So it's not absurd to think that a fighter of his caliber can make a good comeback.
All right, you take Kamaru Usman. I'm taking the young buck, Joaquin Buckley, and I think he gets it done.
I just hope Kamaru Usman, I know he's got his knees that are a big problem. He can't really walk properly.
He looked good in training. Apparently put Justin Gaethje to sleep, during training. I saw that video was going around.
I just think the UFC, with Adesanya losing, needs one of those old guard fighters like Volkanovski to make their comeback because it makes it more interesting. And Joaquin Buckley, he could probably afford a loss. Kamaru Usman can't afford a loss.
If Kamaru Usman loses this fight, I think he calls it a day on his career.
You have to, because what else is there for you to do?
That'll be 3 straight losses.
There's no BMF title you're
potentially
fighting for.
4. That'd be 4 straight losses.
4 straight losses.
Which is crazy. Yes, his last one was against Khamzat Chimaev, and he had a valiant effort in it, don't get me wrong.
Could have won.
But again, a long layoff. He's enjoying being a podcaster with Henry Cejudo. I think he's going to be a good analyst in the space. But I tell you, a loss here, I think that's the end of Kamaru Usman.
But Kamaru Usman this week on his podcast, on other people's podcasts, is talking about the division, and he's talking about Islam and going for the title against JDM. And he said if Islam wins and I win, it's a match made in heaven because it's the former pound-for-pound number 1 in himself versus the current pound-for-pound number 1 in Islam. Yeah. But what doesn't make sense is...
I don't think he can jump the line of the welterweight division.
Yeah, he will. Because really, I think this is the number 1 contenders
after one
match.
fight, after 1.5 years
off. Who's in the division?
In the welterweight division, it's stacked. They got it's log jammed right now. Ian Gary, Shavkat.
Only Shavkat has a right over him. But Shavkat probably needs to fight one more person before he goes for a title now. That's the way it is.
Bilal?
Bilal's not getting a title.
I think what you do is you go Bilal.
Shavkat.
No, Bilal, Bilal.
Kamaru.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Kamaru Usman could realistically get a title shot after this. But what doesn't make sense is he's basically saying, I'll happily face Islam. But if you go back maybe, 5-6 years ago when Khabib was champion and Kamaru was champion, they refused to fight each other. Khabib says, I'm not moving up because I don't want to face my Muslim brother. But now all of a sudden, Islam's happy to face another Muslim at this.
Yeah, it's very confusing with these Muslim fighters because...
They're picking and choosing when they're brothers.
Because Bilal didn't want to fight Islam and he waited for him to lose the title to JDM. It looked like he was going for JDM, let's be honest. There's no way to treat your Muslim brother. And now, like you said, there's a double standard there. Why didn't you want to fight Khabib, but now you want to fight Islam? Is it all behind you?
Because it's not like he's just a random Muslim. Khabib and Islam come from the same place.
All right, if you guys trained in the same gym, I don't get I don't want to fight my Muslim brother.
But it's like that. But if you're happy to face Islam, why wouldn't you be happy to face Khabib? What's changed? Your desperation for a title shot? That's all it is.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. It's like I want them to fight.
I'd love to see the fight. I'm happy that he's backflipped.
I'm just curious just to see what their thought process is. Yeah, if they could explain it, that'd be great for me.
If someone could explain the inner workings of the brotherhood and why they don't want to fight each other and sometimes they backflip on it, I'd love to know because it's a bit confusing.
It'd be great. It'd be great clarification for all of us. And it would actually maybe make more reasoning why Islam didn't want to fight Bilal or other fights don't happen. I think even Usman didn't want to fight Adesanya. That wasn't a Muslim brotherhood.
That was a Nigerian brotherhood. I can understand that.
That made a bit more sense. But even then, just fight.
But how come you don't want to? You would fight DDP. He's also African. No, he's a true African king.
Allegedly.
Okay. Now let's move on. It has just been announced. Dana White has announced that Canelo versus Crawford will be taking place on Netflix September 13th. They had to move heaven and earth for this to happen. They moved UFC September, which was Noche. They moved it to a fight night. It is now the month of Canelo. It is going to be live on Netflix around the world. This is going to be one of the biggest boxing matches of the year. The amount of people that are going to see it, everyone's already saying, Netflix, get your servers ready because it's going to be buffering.
Well, as soon as people saw that this fight was announced to be on Netflix, straight to the comment section, round 11 and 12, you're going to see the circle. You're going to see the loading screen. We're going to see a lot of
they've
buffering.
learned by now. Like now that wrestling's on there, you got WrestleMania on there. They did the Jake Paul fight. They learned from that. But this is going to be huge. It's one of the most anticipated boxing matches we've seen this year. Turkey El Sheikh says he put out a thing. He goes, if you think you're the best boxer in the world and you want to be on this undercard, reach out to me. Because it's going to be a massive card. We were there for the card of the century in Saudi Arabia. I think it has the potential to be bigger than that.
And they haven't really released where they're going to do it yet. So he's obviously...
No, it's taking place in Las Vegas.
In the stadium?
It's probably going to be at Allegiant Stadium. They're doing a press tour throughout Las Vegas, Los Angeles, and New York.
That'll be massive. I'm really excited for a stadium show. I feel like that's something we definitely need to go
I'm
to.
also excited for Canelo to talk shit to some Americans. We've seen Canelo talk shit. He loves to swear. It's going to be pretty entertaining. These guys are...
You fucking YouTuber.
Yeah, these guys are going to be vying for who is the best boxer right now. And again, people are saying don't sleep on Terence Crawford, but I got to go with the GOAT. I'm going with Canelo.
Look, I just haven't seen enough of Terence because I'm more of a casual boxing fan.
Yeah.
And I've seen a lot of Canelo. I do watch more Canelo fights than I watch Crawford fights. So I kind of I'm a Canelo fanboy as well. I think gives a great interview. Probably like in the top 10 of people I would like to interview in sports because he's kind of funny.
We got to reach out to Netflix. So we got to cover that one. That's going to be huge.
Yeah,
September 13th.
This might be a tough one to cover, eh?
I do want to do that. I want to see that again. This is probably the first Canelo fight on Netflix. I think this is just going to be kind of the foundation of how the other big boxing cards are going to be on Netflix. It's in collaboration with TKO, Saudi Arabia. Going to be a huge card. I think Jai Opetaia is going to be on the card. And if they can set up that Zurdo Ramirez fight, that'll be huge. And I'm excited to see who's going to be on the undercard.
Can Jai Opetaia get on this card?
For sure. He's been on other Riyadh season cards before.
They're with DAZN though.
Yeah, what do you mean? The Matchroom, they all work together.
So is DAZN just like Netflix? I don't really know how it works.
Well, you're supposed to be in the space you're supposed to. DAZN is a streaming service. Like
they're
exactly like a KO.
Okay.
So it's not with DAZN. It's like who's going to be the broadcaster of this show.
Is Canelo with Matchroom or who's he with? He's with his own promotion.
Canelo's with Riyadh season. He signed 4-fight deal with Turkey El Sheikh.
Okay.
Directly with him.
Okay, so...
Jai Opetaia is with Tasman Fighters and he's with Eddie Hearn. Eddie Hearn is Matchroom Boxing.
Okay, and then...
So they would work out a deal to get him on the Riyadh season
and
card.
Dana White's just TKO.
Dana White is promoting with Turkey El Sheikh. Yeah, as TKO.
Why is TKO needed there?
TKO brings the marketing machine. They're bringing the UFC-like promotion of this event. You've seen other boxing cards. You were just at one in the Gold Coast.
Very unprofessional.
We were just at some in Las Vegas. It is like every man for himself. Media members got to go up, get an interview. They rush the fighters. It's always a media scrum. Whereas the UFC, it's a lot more organized. They have UFC press conferences. They have individual time with broadcasters. I think Dana White's going to make this fight massive, and that's why they had to move other UFC events for it. It's going to be huge.
Do you think they actually moved the September UFC card because of this?
100%. He almost sacked Dana White as the promoter of the event. Dana White had to come out recently and said, no, I am promoting the event, and it's going to be on this day.
Turkey El Sheikh, probably like, you know when they do like Times Magazine, most influential people? I think Turkey El Sheikh deserves that award.
Well, when you got the money, you really can tell people to whatever you want.
I know some people don't care about sports, but the stuff that Turkey El Sheikh's doing and the shots that he's calling, he's like undefeated right now.
Yeah.
He can't be beaten.
Well, let's move over to TKO's other property, WWE. It's finally announced John Cena versus CM Punk one last time is going to happen in Saudi Arabia.
Night of Champions.
The last time these two met was at Night of Champions, I think in 2011, 2012. And now it's funny. People are calling CM Punk a kind of a hypocrite because he was always critical of these Saudi Arabia cards.
Refused to go.
Well, not that he refused to go. He was just critical. I don't think he was there when they...
I'm pretty sure like the last couple of years he hasn't been. He like does not want to fight there.
Hasn't been there?
No. Him and Sami Zayn, I don't think they go to Saudi Arabia.
Sammy's been.
Kevin Owens then maybe it is.
I don't know.
There was Daniel Bryan.
No, Sammy held out for a long time.
Yeah.
Sammy held out for a long time. But I don't know. I think he's given Saudi Arabia a chance. It's the last time it's going to bring you back to 2011, bring you back to your childhood. Again, Cena has 18 dates left. I don't know how long this feud is going to last, if it's going to go into SummerSlam, but I'm happy it's happening.
It's definitely...
It's needed, because Cena's run right now has been lackluster.
And everyone would thought when John Cena announced his retirement run, you were going through, okay, we want to see Randy Orton, we want to see AJ Styles, we want to see CM Punk.
Yeah.
So it's good to get CM Punk in there. But because it's happening in Saudi, everyone's already like, oh, well, you're not changing the title in Saudi Arabia. So it's a John Cena win. CM Punk's not winning this fight.
Well, I think it could maybe go over into the next pay-per-view or, someone cashes in.
What's the next pay-per-view? SummerSlam in August?
Yeah, SummerSlam.
Or is there one before that?
I think it'll be straight SummerSlam. Yeah,
So, look, they could change it to SummerSlam, and that's a good main event for SummerSlam, Cena versus Punk. But
with 18 dates left, has it really lived up to the hype?
no.
The John Cena retirement tour?
It feels like it's been rushed and kind of made up as they've gone along. They haven't really put as much thought or effort into it. John Cena, he's just not a convincing heel right now. He's still wearing the Fruity Pebbles outfits. It's just not what I wanted.
Well, maybe CM Punk can get the best out of him and turn it around. I can see him slowly starting to turn into a good guy, and I think he'll eventually be a good guy by the end of his run. But that brings us to R-Truth. R-Truth cut a promo out, cut the dreadlocks off. He thanked the fans for bringing him back. He said it was on them that actually brought him back after he got released. But he cut his dreads off, and it's not R-Truth anymore. It's Ron Killings. Are we going to see the best version of R-Truth? And is this going to get him a WWE championship?
No.
You think he's still going to be a side character gimmick?
He's going to have maybe a good month from this month onwards of being in the spotlight. Then after that, he's a mid-carder again. No one's going to care because there's more superstars that are more important and definitely earn the main event. He's good, but has he really earned to be in the main event?
Everyone's arguing online. Was it a work by Triple H? Or did he actually get sacked? Triple H, I think, kind of took the credit for it, and he said,
it's all part of the show.
It's all part of the show. Enjoy the show. But do you think the fans were the ones that said, listen, if you sack R-Truth, we riot? Or we can see TKO being a scumbag company.
I think it was definitely not a work because R-Truth, it's not like it was he wasn't fired on TV. That's when you know it's a work.
Yeah.
He was released in private, in the office sort of structure. The way they usually do releases, they released all these other fighters, all these other wrestlers, and R-Truth was included in that. Then all of a sudden, I don't even think it was the fans that kind of got him back. I think it was the locker room because a lot of the dirt sheets said a lot of
he's a fan favorite backstage.
A lot of the wrestlers backstage were like, hey, man, this is not right. Someone who's obviously just fought on a Saturday night main event. How did you release him? Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, R-Truth's son actually came out and said Triple H is capping. And he said that it's not a work. They actually sacked him. So, look, it's great to see him back. I want to see where it goes. It's one of the more interesting stories. He's got a massive pop at Money in the Bank. Apparently, John Cena maybe even had a word to management and said, you have to bring him back. He's back. I want to see where it goes. Apparently, we're going to see a meaner side, Ron Killings. It might be entertaining.
Who fired him? Was it Triple H or Nick Khan?
I just think it's TKO. They're cutting costs.
No,
I don't know. Nick Khan was the one that called him because apparently he wasn't answering anyone's calls and then got the deal done.
Well, I saw a tweet, maybe not the most reliable source, that said Triple H was very unhappy that they rehired R-Truth because he was the one that made the call to get rid of him. And then it was like TKO kind of trumped Triple H and brought him back.
Yeah, I don't know what's happening with TKO right now. A lot of people are saying bring back Vince. That's how bad it's going.
Jonathan Coachman.
And I'm all for bringing back Vince.
Jonathan Coachman said Triple H has got 18 months and he's done.
Really?
And they're going to fire him.
It's a reliable source, the coach.
So
he knows his stuff.
The Triple H era could be coming to an end. The Paul Levesque era could last less than 3 years.
But that's all we have time for on Trash Talk over on YouTube. Thank you for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe to @KRoosBros on YouTube and @JohnBernardK on Instagram and TikTok for the clips. Back to you in the studio, Ryan.